Shut up and sit down.
By all means, go for it. Have fun.
Yeah.
Just leave me alone.
People are coming together more and more and more and more as the government has been failing us more and more.
I'm against being shitty to people.
You can't research your way into understanding somebody.
One way or another, I'd rather have the fight now.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Fight Club. First rule about Fight Club is that you tell everyone you know about Fight Club. So before you continue watching any more of this, click the like, the subscribe, the share button, all of the various buttons all over the place. This is streaming to a lot of platforms, so there's a lot of different things that you can do. Which brings me to the second rule of Fight Club is you watch Fight Club on Odysee, because Odysee is the free speech video streaming platform that we should all be supporting right now. So if you're watching this on YouTube, there's a link in the description. Click on it and go watch this on Odysee, because we're going to give them our business and our following because they're awesome. And if you get an account on Odysee, then you can get crypto for watching stuff, and then for following people they'll give you crypto for that, and then you can help tip your favorite content creators in that crypto, and then that helps boost their audience and their viewership, and it's kind of like a paid promotion on some other platforms, but you can actually help sponsor the content that you like on Odysee. So go over to Odysee, start getting your watch rewards from Odysee from this show, and then keep being engaged and doing awesome stuff. And while you're at it, go on over to nuggofknowledge.com. You can find all of the best cannabis products, the ones that are legal at least. So you've got some Delta-8, some CBD, some CBG, lots of things over at nuggofknowledge.com. And if you use that promo code F4L, you get 10% off your first order. That helps the network, that helps the show, that helps other libertarians that you know and love, and 10% of your purchase is going to go to helping in the war on drugs. So it's like a win-win-win-win, and you get to get high and have fun while you're at it. So nuggofknowledge.com, promo code F4L. Go on over, do that. And our newest sponsor, Harrison Kemp, he's running for Maine. I don't know if he would condone being a sponsor of this specific episode and what we're going to talk about, but he's sponsoring the show. So go on over to kempformaine.com/fight-for-liberty. That link is also in all the descriptions. Give him a couple bucks. He's going to be doing an awesome job up in Maine. I'm really excited about his campaign. He's already got the Maine Cannabis Coalition's endorsement. He's got a couple of endorsements from sitting House reps. It's looking like it's going to be a really awesome race. So go ahead and over, give him a couple bucks, help him out. Now, without further ado, this is the Fight Club. So today we're fighting about, is the earth really round or is it flat? With my good friend, the one and only Jack Casey. Welcome back to the show.
Hey, it's good to be back. Yeah. Is it fat or is it flat? We're going to find out.
That's beautiful. I love that you co-opted that from your wife.
Yeah, it was her idea. I was like,
you gotta give her
why I married
credit.
you.
Gotta have the important parts to a relationship. Can they make flat earth jokes? Yes. Okay, keep her.
You should see her editing comments when she helps edit the books I write, and it's so funny. I should have saved a document of her commentary on all the my dumb draft mistakes and things she says. It was pretty great. She's a funny woman.
I would enjoy reading that. So the main question is the earth flat. I want to, before we get too far into it, I want to try to understand where you're coming from. So I want you to walk me through how you became a flat earther.
Yes. How did I get this way? Why am I the way that I am? The quote, to badly misquote The Office. Yeah. Flat Earth is something that no one initially wants to get into. I think a lot of people have a similar story where, you first hear of it And even conspiracy-minded people who love, thinking about this stuff, you hear flat Earth, and your first thought is, "That's retarded. Who would think this? What kind of backward? We have all this. What is this about? Right? Is this a psyop? Is this something else?" And so I get why. Just like I did initially, it's like, okay, no, this isn't a serious thing. However, the line between genius and retarded is sometimes very thin. And I like to think I walk that line every day of my life. So of course, my creative writer brain, even though I didn't think the flat Earth thing would be serious or real when I first heard of it. My creative, imaginative brain loves exploring hypotheticals, alternate worlds, made up laws of physics and magic systems. I have the curiosity and interest in this type of stuff, even just for writing purposes, right? So I at least was like, okay, I'll just take a look at this as a fun hypothetical and have fun with it. And of course, probably debunk it or whatever. This is back in like 2019. And the more I would look into it, and the more I would try to think through, what was and wasn't making sense, I reached the point where I started to go, oh shit, this thing might be real. This might actually be legit. And kind of like any other conspiracy where, there's some people go for right away or not. And then there's some that when they do turn out to be true, it can be kind of horrifying. It can be kind of, whether it's people, figuring out stuff about 9/11 or, even right now with the COVID regime, weird agenda going on, other weird stuff's going on now and has previously that has woken people up to something, right? That the government is either lying or faking stuff or just twisting the truth a lot and doing a lot. And this is one that's on such a scale that once it starts to become possible or even probable that this might be onto something, it's pretty intimidating because it's every other conspiracy you can think of, but on a scale so much bigger. Obviously, it's literally world changing. So as I started to go, oh my God, this thing might actually have some weight to it. These guys might not just be fucking around or dumb or whatever. I was faced with the choice. I'd already written some books I was trying to edit and get published. And I was like, I could get into this now, or I can just put it in a little box, come back to it later, because I don't know if I'm ready to fully process or decide whether or not I'm openly for this or not. It's like I need more time. I need to let it sit. I need to come back and check on it, take a peek at it. So I did. And for the last, I guess 3 years now, I was pretty quiet about it. And then when I opened that box again and looked back at it again, there was just even more evidence and things going on. So the one thing I'll say though, for anyone curious, is there was a peak time period where flat Earth research stuff was big. It was like one of the top search things, and there were videos everywhere. And then YouTube and Google and all them, Congress even got involved. They shut that down really fast. And so now when you go to look for it on the normal platforms, which is why, by the way, I'm glad you mentioned Odysee. Odysee has a lot of good stuff, including the fringe things like flat Earth, right? You can get more of your uncensored material there.
And libertarianism.
Yes, exactly. And so what you find now, if you try to search for this stuff, is all the either dumbed down controlled op kind of shit where it's like super extra fake dumb looking pictures of what flat Earth is supposed to be about, or it's all just the debunk videos where it's only showing that side of the story. And so if you really dig and find the voices and the people who have the receipts and can show the math and the science behind what they're talking about, it's pretty compelling. It's really compelling. And I think even someone like me who's seen a lot of it, it's still tough to finally put that label on yourself, because you just ask yourself a few years ago if you thought you would believe something as crazy as even stuff going on now, right? And so and I think too, because the label flat earther, it's like if the spectrum of morality, like the worst thing you can be called is like murderer, rapist, pedophile or something, on the spectrum of what people think your intelligence is, the very bottom is like flat earther. Like you say flat earth and everyone's like, oh, okay, you're way down on that spectrum, right?
Kind of like anti-vaxxer.
Yes, same idea, right? And what's funny is this is actually what gave me, you know, let's say the courage to, or you know, the risk of coming out and talking about this more lately is, right, we don't want to discredit ourselves with other things we know is going on and can show too, right? So I think there's some people who are trying to get people woken up about COVID stuff and all the rest, and they don't want to discredit themselves by talking about the stuff that maybe people aren't ready to chew on or digest yet. But then I kind of at this point saw it the other way. I think now that people are seeing what bullshit they can get away with the whole COVID agenda and all the stuff they're pushing now in such a short time frame, there are people just waking up to the fact that their media and government lies to them about shit all the time and pushes their agendas. So now it almost seems right for people to then, once they realize what's going on now and are like, holy shit, like some of these conspiracies are real. And even with like the, you know, the child sex trafficking and all the other stuff that's on the checklist of conspiracy theories that keeps getting, you know, the scorecards in our favor. I think now might be the time to tell people, hey, it goes even bigger than that. They've been pulling stuff over our eyes for a while now, and like fundamental things about our existence, right? And I think that is also why it's intimidating and it may be scary, even for a lot of libertarians to really take seriously, because it has implications beyond just, oh, the government likes to lie and enrich itself and murder people for money and all that stuff, right? Wealth and power. Because if we're not, and I can give the full pitch when you're ready about what the flat earth proposal is. It's not claiming we're, you know, a flat pizza for some reason in space with other planets that are round and galaxies. We're saying, no. We're in a created, like, whatever you want to call it, terrarium, right? There's some kind of dome or something. And the, you know, the Antarctica is an ice ring around the edge. The North Pole's the center. Southward is just outward from that. East and west is going in a circle around that pizza. The Antarctic circle is like the crust. And if we're living in a world where space is fake, the galaxies and all that stuff they're showing you with NASA images and stuff, if that's all fake, if that's all designed to keep you from knowing that you're in something that's like very clearly artificially constructed by something, right? Call them what you want, a creator, a god, goddess, whatever. That has implications that could be spiritual, religious. I mean, that opens up a whole nother bunch of questions. So I think it's why it's bigger and badder than the other conspiracies, because it necessitates other big questions too, which can be kind of scary. You know, I mean, in 2019, when I was first looking into this, I you know, a lot of people too, they already find their own spiritual or religious beliefs, no matter what shape the earth is, right? You can find that in many ways. But even if you have, to just have something like that kind of in your face, if you're looking up at the sky and you're going, dude, that's like, this is a structure someone built, and that thing could open up, or we don't know what's outside. Like, we don't know who made it, what they want. Like it's, you know, it's like finding out you live in an ant farm, basically. It's pretty scary. It's like the Matrix or the Machines, but then also it can be weirdly reassuring if you come to the conclusion that these governments we've been fighting and the powers that be we've been trying to resist, it's scary if you think they're working in conjunction with whatever made all this. It can be reassuring if you conclude that they are working against whoever made all this and whatever made all this. And therefore, whatever made all this and whatever we're in and whatever's going on, you know, is you know, the powers that be right now are just little tiny tyrants that are temporarily have control and are, you know, doing all the shit we see them do every day, right? But that they're not the big bad. They are small like us. They're just people, and we kind of already knew that, but it just reemphasizes that, yeah, there's something bigger going on, and these little monsters aren't going to last. I'm sure someone's going to come and knock in at some point. I don't know. But I want to know, because I want you to be able to ask me all the fun questions. You know, I can try and answer some of them. I'll probably give the layman's explanation because I won't have all the math and science in front of me to point out stuff. But there's better smarter people with more receipts that everyone can go then look and find to get those specific answers. So I'd love to
Those
just
people would probably just destroy me in any form of a debate.
there's and to be fair too, there's some flat earthers that are really bad at pitching and explaining flat earth.
Well, I feel like every philosophy has those people.
Just like libertarians, we have some bad.
Everybody has their Dave Smith. It's unfortunately.
I will respectfully disagree, but I get your point. Yeah, we all disagree on who are the bad messengers. Point well taken.
So first of all, I'm going to agree with the sentiment that you posed, that now is the time to like wake people up to this. I very much have to agree with you on that one. I literally, like, my dad just quoted a meme to me the other day while we were sitting at dinner. And he was like, hey, they should stop calling them conspiracy theories and start calling them spoiler alerts.
Yep.
And I was like, my first reaction was, I saw that meme like 3 days ago. And then my second reaction was like, okay, but my dad just quoted that meme. My 57-year-old father who's like kind
the normies
of a
are waking up.
Theorist already, but like hates the term libertarian. Is like talking about this. So I mean, I think especially like you mentioned, like there's just the checklist at this point of like all the things Alex Jones has been right about. You can't ignore that anymore. So my first question is, because you kind of alluded to it already, but like if that is a terrarium of flat Earth, if what you're saying is true, what incentive would the powers that currently be have to and lie and sell us on round Earth? Like, why the lie?
Why the lie, right? That's a big one. It really is. It's the same old. It's power and control. And I think at first we think, well, why would that matter? But again, think about the implications. If you wanted to control a population and enslave them, it would be easier to do if you could try and crush their, change their understanding of where they are and what they're in and all that. If you create a version of reality that could be sort of creatorless or purposeless, not that people can't still find those ideas in the version where there's galaxies in space and all this other stuff going on, but just that if the predominant science understanding of what's going on is very specifically designed to obstruct or hide any evidence of intelligent design or creation, it's I think psychologically easier to control people or have them look to you for answers or to just manipulate people. Whereas if you come to believe, wait a minute, I'm in something that clearly something made, therefore made me. And I don't know what that is, right? We don't know what's outside the dome, or is there other civilizations out there? Is there more oceans and continents beyond the Arctic Circle that we could go find in other places? Is there more to explore? Whatever the case is, just if you know that you're in something that's clearly not arising through natural phenomenon. It's not like there's a big bang and there's stuff accidentally happening. It's like, no, this is a created place. The sun and moon, these other things are all designed in a way that works like clockwork, like a machine. It's not an accident. That I think that does change people's perspective. That said, people still have plenty of wars of religion disagreeing about who they think, the creator or whatever is. So it doesn't take away human conflict. It doesn't change the fact that people could still have lots to fight about. But if you wanted to dominate and control people, I think, maybe in the past people still do try to control people through religions as well, right? Say, oh, I'm the special, voice of the divine or whatever. And same idea, maybe the sort of globe heliocentric pseudoscience model is just another form of control. It's religion for the non-religious. It's a version of reality that is also, it's based on some kind of fantasy or stretching of the truth in order to control or manipulate or, enrich themselves, all the usual reasons. So
yes,
that's why.
in your to your not understanding, the current governments do not control this terrarium, correct?
I think I have to believe that they want to hide it from us because they didn't make it. I think if they were the ones who made this all, or whatever forces behind the scenes, I think they would be open and proud of it. I think
they already try to make it seem like without the government, the sun wouldn't rise and the moon wouldn't fall. Like
metaphorically, right? Yeah.
I swear some people believe it literally.
Yeah, I know, and I think that is part of it. I think if they can take away people's belief in something bigger, it makes them the default go-to for answers and control and all that. So I think that's kind of their main goal. But again, people can still be enslaved through religions. It doesn't fix all the problems to learn that we're in something like this, but it would certainly, and here's my thought, okay? If 9/11 being an inside job wasn't obvious to everyone yet, or waking people up, we can talk about that too. Might have been the same people that did that, did the globe stuff. That if the COVID stuff hasn't woken up enough people, although it's waking up a lot, this might be the magic bullet that just blows up the matrix. Because once people find out, there's no space, there's no galaxies, we never went there, NASA and them are lying, all this stuff. I don't know how people could ever trust those institutions again. I think people's faith in their governments and all the rest would just be gone. It would be the final nail in the coffin. So that's what I'm talking about now. I'm like, look, if I can plant the seeds, get the idea going. And again, not that we would need the earth to be flat to also have a reason to, get rid of our governments and resist them. But just if this could be the one thing that changes it all, that kind of checkmates them completely, that would be amazing.
Do you think that they have like some sort of a long-term plan for how popular space travel is about to be?
Right, like clock's ticking, right? Like how long can what's her name move the football and be like, oh yeah, no, we'll, think of it this way, right? I'm sure after the moon landings, allegedly, people were like, oh, this is gonna be great. We're gonna go to space. We're gonna go back to the moon. We'll be on the moon in 10 years doing tourist stuff. And they didn't go back for a while. They put that off for quite a while. They were like, that's good enough. They'll like that. You know what? We'll show them satellites and pictures of stuff, and that will make them think we're progressing. But, and I think it's the same with Mars. They're teasing Mars and stuff. And I think they're stringing us along as they can. But I agree. There's a shelf life to that plan. At some point, I mean, maybe in 100 years, we still wouldn't have people teleporting back and forth to Mars and people would still be buying it. I don't know, but there's probably a shelf life. And does that mean they have a new plan or phase to implement? Does it mean that they have a disclosure plan when they're ready? I don't know. I don't know exactly what their long-term goal is. Maybe they just plan to kill off a bunch of us before we even can, I don't know, do anything about it. But it'd be great if this is what finally breaks them. And and to give people credit, I think a lot of libertarians, they don't go for conspiracies right away because we like to believe our government is more incompetent than it is evil, or at least maybe evil because it's stupid more than it is, this evil mastermind. But I remind them, it's the fact that their plans can be exposed and aren't working, and people are waking up to stuff like flat earth, that shows how incompetent they really are. Because go back and look at what NASA's putting out and claiming is real, and you're watching the bloopers on the ISS, and they're dropping pens in supposed zero gravity on accident, and things keep happening that show glitches in their narrative, and you're like, wait a minute, they are really bad at this. And it's kind of obvious once you see it. Once you look back and look at some of the stuff, you're like, oh yeah, it's just and I think it's a similar path to politics, right? For people who are still stuck in the red, blue, kind of typical political matrix, to wake up to the libertarian ideas, is a form of red pill or conspiracy awakening. And I think it's just going that many layers deeper to the big stuff. So
yeah, because like we already have had like a what, a dozen people this year like go to space. I'm using air quotes like I'm already a flat earther.
Where's that 25-minute mark? Come on, where is it?
It's 26. So you're
shit. Go on. Yes. Tell me about the flat Earth. Tell me.
Well, we've had like the space travel. It's already like a thing, right? Like we've had people going to space like this here. Like how would they have gotten to like not only Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos, but also like Richard Branson and what was the Shaft? What was his name? The guy from Star Trek.
William Shatner. Yeah.
That one. Yeah.
Well, and there's two thoughts here. It could be that, right, all these people are in on it. Okay, they're the people who are at the tippy top of the elites. They're the ones who know the thing. The other possibility is some of them don't know, or like imagine, right? You could theoretically take someone really high up, tell them, they've gone to space or that you do 0G plane where you can kind of create that effect or make them think they kind of dipped in space. So it could be that there are some people that are just tricking, or it could be that, right, anyone who's going up there and saying it is kind of in on it. What would give it away, and I think what can give this conspiracy weight is that, again, you need as few people in on it as possible. And so it's most likely that most people working for these companies, working on this stuff, they don't know what the technology is actually for and what's going on. So, for example, like satellites and stuff, like they're making satellites, they're doing real stuff, but then we have the footage of these satellites being sent up in helium balloons. They're just floating up there high up and doing stuff, but they're not in space. Yeah, you can fire a rocket or do this or that, but are you going to space, or is it arcing and going into the Bermuda Triangle and sinking in the ocean or something like that? I mean, there's ways you could kind of create the illusion where most people involved wouldn't know either. I even theorized that the astronauts wouldn't have to know. All you'd have to get them to do is agree to fake the landing and the footage in space. But the reason why, you could give them a complete bullshit answer. You could say to them, yes, for national security, whatever, win the Cold War, whatever, we need you to lie for the American people, but it's for a good cause and it's your duty, blah, blah. And you could give them a bullshit excuse like, the aliens came, they told us we can't leave yet because we're not ready, so we're just going to pretend because blah blah blah. Like whatever the reason is, you wouldn't even have to tell the people actively lying the reason why they're lying. You could tell them some other reason. All you need to do is get them to agree to lie and threaten them if they ever try to reveal it. So which we've seen them do all the time with other stuff, obviously. I mean, they're not above doing that. They're not above lying and threatening to kill and killing people who speak out about the wrong things. So obviously,
that's a fact.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've definitely heard they faked the moon landing from a lot more people than I've heard flat Earth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's almost like an easy foot in the door one, because if you can be convinced they're either fake the moon landing, or even or if you look at like current NASA footage and ISS stuff, and you're like, wait a minute, these are green screens, or they're faking this. Yeah, whichever one you go down, once you know they're lying about something like this, then it opens up, okay, what else are they faking with the space stuff? Because if they pulled this off, what else are they pulling off? And then the question of, why are they faking it? Why not just do it? I can see why you might fake it the first time or whatever, but like, why not actually do the thing at some point to cover your ass for when it comes out that you were faking other stuff, right? And so that doesn't lead you directly to the flat Earth stuff, but it lines up really well once you see that part. Honestly, the main thing for flat Earth is just the fact that we can't find curvature. That our technology today. See, here's what makes it such a cool era of a new part of science, because some of the proofs supposedly given in the past for why we knew the Earth was round have been debunked by our modern technology. Like, they would tell you, oh, the boat's going over a horizon, see, it's disappearing, or it's, whatever. And now we can just zoom the fuck in infrared and see the boat's still there. Same with the sun. You can watch the sun supposedly setting, right, over a supposed curve. Just zoom in on it and it comes back into frame. and you realize, oh no, it's just going further away, and your perspective of your eyes, just like when you look down a road and see, street lamps, they converge at some point and disappear over the horizon of your eyesight. That's creating the illusion like it's going down or going into the ground or whatever. And it turns out that's just what these things in the sky are doing, and it creates this illusion of it going over something. But now we can just zoom in or see things that we shouldn't be able to see. The curvature one's a big one too, where based on the supposed size of the globe, the planet, there are certain objects that should be impossible to see over certain distances, right? Because there'd be too much of like a curve of just Earth between you and it. And they'll go to these spots, whether it's flat bodies of water or whatever. And now we can zoom in or flashlights and show that, no, I can see that. It's supposed to have a mile of curvature between me and it, but I can see it and show that. So stuff like that. There's proofs like that are just kind of like, they get your foot in, and then you start asking the questions. Like, what's this? How does this work? What are the stars doing up there? What's all the rest of this? So depends on which angle you want to attack it from, but I guess I'll send you some links after this.
Man, I was very unprepared for this.
Dude, it's huge. It's like the biggest thing if it gets exposed. It's like it's the biggest thing we could talk about. And I think it would line up with our goals of liberty, because we've seen how frustrating it is. We try to talk the ethics, the philosophy, all the rest, but maybe it takes things like this to shake people out of their trust in their governments and stuff. So this could be I mean, apparently a study found that I think up to like 7% of Americans have doubts about the Earth being round. 7%. That's more than double the amount of people who've ever voted libertarian in a national election. Like, so some people might think, oh no, the flat Earth stuff might scare off, people or voters, or maybe there's a big chunk of people that could be grafted in who are like very skeptical of the government, who might want to vote our way with this stuff, especially if they think we'd be the only ones to go barging into NASA and be like, show us the truth, right? Maybe Storm Area 51 was just practice for Storm NASA.
I support this 100%.
Yeah.
Whether
or Area
not...
51 is where they have the fake ISS and all that stuff, right? I mean, where they film it all. We're pretty sure they film everything in underwater pools at NASA, because we see bubbles in space and stuff like that kind of gives it away. And then they'll have the rover on Mars, and they'll go find the hill they filmed it on in Greenland or something, and they'll line it up and be like, oh look, it's Mars, just without a red filter. Stuff like that, right?
Interesting.
It's fun when you go down the rabbit hole and start watching, so that you're like, oh my god, these sons of bitches, they're full of shit. They are fucking lying to us. At a minimum, lying about maybe going to space, regardless of if space is real or not, but definitely lying about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So to put this in perspective, like, I'm the kind of person that for a while now makes consistent jokes about that we live in a simulation. Mm-hmm. Like, I've had legitimate thought out doubts on like the existence of the world in reality in general, right? But for some reason, and I mean, I guess this is just natural. Even if it's a simulation, I believe that it's a round simulation,
right?
This
is like another level of simulation breaking. It's like, right. Even the simulation version of what you thought was true wasn't true.
Mm-hmm. So I guess that's my next question for you is like, do you believe that this is do you think that maybe if what you're saying is true, that even that is not actually real, and that's just like a petri dish sitting on someone's desk somewhere.
Yet, no, it's interesting, right? Like, what are the implications? Because it's technically true. We could be both in a simulation that has this flat plane and all this stuff going on in it. So technically, the simulation thing could be true. I think what's different about the simulation theory, though, is that, again, I think because how people think of it now, it's almost more hypothetical or abstract because it's harder to prove, because if it's a successful simulation, like unless they're saying, okay, we're showing glitches and we're able to show that it's fake and simulated, but even just this idea that it's like, oh, what if we're in a dream? What if everything isn't real? Like that is a cool thought experiment, and it could also be true. But I think something about the flat Earth stuff, it's almost more concrete, or like it, yeah, like you said, it's define your expectation in a different way, because it's saying, yeah, no, whatever we're in, simulation or not, the version of it they're telling you is just wrong. There's more land and oceans, or there's something out there, we don't know what, but we're just in this little dome prison or something like that, and they don't want us to know.
Okay,
I'll throw some more fun fact stuff to wrap your head around then. So again, if the idea is we're, think like a pizza. North Pole is the center of the pizza. Antarctica is the outer crust, and if you look at the flat map that shows this, it's kind of like the UN logo and other stuff. It's just like the globe flattened out, or the flat map, wrapped around a globe. Either way you want to look at it, and you look at flight paths and all the rest, it all lines up still. It all still adds up. Same with the seasonal changes, the equator, the temperatures, everything translates over to the flat Earth version. And some of the stuff in the flat Earth model explains phenomena we witness better than the globe model. And there's some stuff in the globe model that just can't be explained and doesn't make sense, Like what? Whether it's certain eclipses, where if they're telling us the eclipse is like, the sun here and the Earth and the moon or whatever, and that's casting the shadow, right? And we're like, oh, look, the shadow, that's the Earth. But then you get an eclipse where the sun and the moon are both above the horizon, so the Earth isn't between it. And then the eclipse happens, but the shadow where it's coming from is coming on the opposite side. It's not coming from the side that the Earth would be making a shadow first if it was slowly moving across. It's coming from the other side, and you're like, wait. So there's some other object or something going on that's blocking the light or doing something there, but maybe just not the planet. Even just looking into the Antarctica stuff, like there's explorers who tried to go around it and they couldn't. And they just were getting lost out there, like for way more miles than they thought they would. They're basically just going around this thing, bumping against it. Like, where's the other side? What's going on? And you can look at Operation Deep Freeze, soon after Operation Fishbowl, where they were firing missiles just straight up into the air. And they say they were like detonating them to test explosions in the air. But it kind of also looks like maybe they hit Antarctica, realized there was an edge or the dome keeping us in, and started firing missiles in that thing to see if they could break through, and panicked or whatever. Soon after, they signed the Antarctic Treaty. All these countries agree that no one can ever go to Antarctica without permission. They only take you to certain spots during certain times of the edge of this, ice wall thing. You're not allowed to free explore. They'll shoot you down. They'll tell you up front. They're like, we will kill you if you come here without permission. They all signed this. They formed NASA soon after. They pushed the space program. It's like they want to draw everyone's eyes up at the stars now instead of the outer ring, because there was at least one guy that said, yeah, we got to Antarctica, and beyond the ice, there's like a whole other continent the size of like America and other stuff out there. And then that quickly got shut down. So, that's pretty sus.
But if like that's the edge of the Earth, then what would that have been?
Well, some people think, okay, so is an infinite plane, or just further than what we see right now? And there's this like ice ring that we're inside the ice ring and kind of in the pond of it, right? And maybe beyond the ice, there's just more oceans and more continents. Like, how far does that go? We don't know. Or some people aren't even sure of that. They're like, we just don't know what's beyond our ice ring and the dome. We could be all there is, right? But I think there's some evidence to suggest that there's more out there they just don't want us to know about or explore.
So you're
or that
not
they can't get
only
past.
suggesting flat Earth theory, you're suggesting like flat universe theory.
Yeah.
Like that there's just
Yeah, it's
still an infinite plane of the universe, but it's just flattened. Like
Yeah, and it's interesting because it leaves room for, like, you could still have extraterrestrials or beings show up if they're coming from outside of this dome. If they're coming from other lands out there, they're not 90 bajillion miles away. They're like right over there, and so it makes more sense that they could come here more easily, show up and do things. So that's a possibility. I think they're gonna do some weird shit with aliens and maybe try to fuck with us, but. It's interesting, right?
Aliens?
If they're here and real, they're not from like outer space and other planets. No, I think they'd just be from wherever else is out there, or they're already here. They're just underwater, underground. I mean, I don't know. There's evidence to suggest that there's a lot of shit underground we haven't dug up yet. That's interesting. Maybe some previous civilizations with higher tech and things that got fucked up and buried. And then we just kind of crawled out and we're like, guess we'll inherit the Earth now.
So how deep do you have to go to just plop out the other side? Have we already explored the
like downward
down?
I think Russia tried to go down. The furthest they got was 8 miles, I think, and they hit some impenetrable barrier. We've never been further than 8 miles below. And then we'll be super confident that we know the inside of the planet and all this stuff. But like we've never drilled far enough down to know for sure. Like there could still be lava and stuff. I mean, obviously we got volcanoes. Shit comes up out of volcanoes. Like there's a lot that still makes sense with all this, but it's just not the version they've been telling us, because they want a version that can explain life in the universe in a creatorless way, or in a way that can kind of take away that not take it away, but make it more easy to sell a version of existence that doesn't have that. So again, what that means, does it mean that these same people are also behind the major religions and a lot of that stuff's twisted and warped? I mean, probably, right? I mean, it doesn't answer the exact.
Go down that rabbit hole a little bit more, Jack Casey. What major religions do you think these people might be associated with?
I mean, if it's clear we're in something that's made, we could start triggering everybody. No, I mean, question everything, right? Be skeptical of everything. So, if flat Earth shows that there is creation and we're created, then we're all going to start arguing about who and what created this and what our purpose here is. I mean, those arguments don't die. It would, however, probably obliterate atheism on its face. If the Big Bang and stars and galaxies and all that is just all bullshit, and we're just in something that's something made, then that kind of goes out the window. Unless, I guess you could try and say that like other beings made it, that evolved somewhere. But again, if the whole understanding of the universe kind of goes out the window, then it's kind of hard to back any of the rest of that, right?
I feel like if I'm an atheist and flat Earth turns out to be real, I go 100% into simulation theory.
Yeah.
Like I'm not an atheist, but if I was, I feel like that's how I would cope.
Well, and what's funny about simulation theory is like no one asks, okay, but then who made the simulation? What would you call that? Is that God? Is that a creator? Like, is that any different than what the religions are trying to tell you? If there's a universe that was created by something and is being currently, and then if there's something that could do, miracles or manipulate reality, call that a hacker in the Matrix or whatever you want to call it. It's the same idea, right? It's kind of funny how you can dress it up various ways, but yeah, a lot of people when they explore the flat Earth stuff, there's a lot of other tangential stuff connected to it. I know a lot of people look into like the mud flood stuff, and also just like the missing science that they repressed, right? Because if Nikola Tesla and these other people were talking about things like vibrations and waves and how everything is like these electric, currents and stuff, and they had a different understanding of how the universe worked. And if these people were basically silenced and shut down, and then they pitched their heliocentric sort of gravity-based, like other stuff version of things, there's a lot of technology that could be hiding from us, whether it's limitless energy from, the atmosphere and stuff, or there's even things to suggest that maybe using sound waves to like heal people of diseases. I mean, there's a lot of cool, even levitation. Like if gravity isn't mass creating a space-time, distortion, and if it's actually just positive and negative charges, like the ground has a certain charge and we have a different charge, like there's, it opens up other technology and other cool stuff to explore that they must want to keep from us or must not want to let us know about. Therefore they pitch their, their fake version of the science or whatever. So
why wouldn't they want us to be able to levitate?
because they want it for themselves. Yeah, there's interesting stuff like that. Like, again, if there was the potential for free limitless energy and you owned big oil and petroleum and stuff.
Okay, so this one I know about,
right?
Like, yeah, you're talking about a Tesla tower, right?
Yeah, stuff like that, right? Yeah.
Okay, so that's one that, I have a good friend who I'm actually going to try to have on Fight Club here pretty soon to debate which state raises better hippies between Colorado and Michigan. I'm going to have my two friends. My two friends are like anarchist hippies that grew up like children of hippies, and they're both ridiculous in their own ways. One's a boog boy, one's a cannabis farmer. It's like it's gonna be a fun time. But he wants to build one at the cannabis farm. He was talking to me about trying to build a Tesla tower, and that he wants to like do this and prove that it's a legitimate thing. And like he monologued to me for about 3 hours straight over many bowls in a row. But that it does not surprise me in any way, shape, or form that they would try to keep that from us.
Right. It's like they're creating artificial scarcity. Mm-hmm. Like that's kind of, and that is again kind of like the flat earth stuff. It ties into that because same with the land. If there's more land out there, and if everyone who wanted to live in Libertopia could just go to an unclaimed continent and go, we're just going to live here. If people could choose to exit this control system they have, we would just leave. We wouldn't be slaves here. A lot of us would just up and go. So of course they don't want us to know that. And same with the energy stuff. If they can tightly control a limited resource or claim it's a limited resource and do all that, then yeah. So you see how it lines up, right? Yeah, the motives, the stuff we already know about governments and corporations that use regulatory stuff to get their way. I mean, it all kind of ties in, and then the flat earth stuff is just kind of the big bad of that. But yeah, similar idea. So if you ever want to get into it too, if you look at mud flood and Tartaria stuff, that one I'm still newer on. I'm investigating and looking into, but it ties in nicely. Like they're digging up shit that shouldn't be there. Like it's almost as though we already had a civilization here and very advanced buildings and stuff were on these continents. And then there's some kind of massive either flooding or whatever event that just buried shit underground. Like there's apparently like lower halves of buildings like underground of a lot of buildings we have now, and they'll dig them up and then, a lot of this apparently happened like maybe the 1800s or something, and they'll dig up stuff and they basically just decide that the third floor is now the first floor, or they change the bottom part to a basement. But like we keep finding that some of these buildings that they claim were built more recently may have been older and here longer and went deeper down, but then shit just got buried and liquefied. And there's some mountains and things they find where it looks like buildings that got vaporized and melted, and there's like half structures still in them, but you look at the rest of it, it just looks like whether that's energy weapons or whatever. But like it seems like people talk about a great reset, all right, coming up, or people trying to pull that shit off. And you look at some of the stuff and it's almost like there have been probably several resets before where maybe previous civilizations got wiped out or whatever, and they started over, they hid some tech, they rediscovered some tech. And I don't know, is it the same groups controlling the shit? Are we just going through like a loop until we break this, cycle of who knows, man?
I'm gonna put my tinfoil hat on here for a second. because I find it interesting. You brought up the Great Reset specifically, and they were in my head already before you said it, but for a different reason. So the same people who are pushing a Great Reset are like, most of them are environmentalists, right? Most of them are part of the same group that already is like really honest about the fact that if we don't do something, it will be the 6th mass extinction of the planet, right? Like, that's what they continuously say. Like, they believe that this has already happened 5 other times. If you get involved with like any of like Sunrise Movement or Extinction Rebellion or any of these like big environmentalist organizations, like, that's what they believe. They believe it's going to be the 6th mass extinction of the Earth. So it's interesting that the same group would have already come to terms with the fact that this has already happened a bunch of times, but also kind of be trying to push a similar something.
Yeah. It's almost like, I'm at the point where I'm like, I'm pretty sure these people, they mean a lot of us a lot of harm. They're not worried about climate change. I think they're creating the pretext for why they want to kill a lot of people. And what's interesting is I'm sure a lot of the people at the lower levels we see it, right? Like, the elites push an agenda, and the average person sincerely believes the premise or version of whatever narrative they're pitching. So if you believe that, right, humans are going to destroy the Earth because there's too many of us, they're basically selling the idea that, massive die-offs or whatever else is a good thing, right, to save the planet. So it's, it seems like they like to telegraph and tell us what they're up to. And whether that's to like manufacture our consent in some way. I mean, a lot of people think too that once you open up to some of this stuff, like, one thing you say about simulation theory, if all of this is just vibrations and almost like a holographic whatever, what's cool is if you come to find that, we're here and there's more to this than just like the kind of version they tell. It may well be that the reason they don't want us to know is because our mind and our thoughts and our energy actually affects and influences the world around us. Like, it's like once you're aware to what they're up to, you can like stop it and call that what you will, call that prayer or like, manifesting, whatever. But like, if people know the truth about something, they can basically like help shape the reality. So it's almost like, I mean, it sounds funny, but it's like if we're all basically secretly wizards and don't know it, and there's a few small group of wizards that want to keep everyone from knowing they can do magic so that they can just be the only ones with the magic and cool shit, right, and control the rest of us. And if we all wake up to that fact, suddenly it's like
a book that someone might write.
Yeah, in that sense, it's like you are literally the power. It's like, it's not just you are the power because you can fight this government. It's like we are very we are beings that have a lot more power than we know, and we can actually, and like we say with government, it is kind of a paper tiger. They have to create illusions and trick people into handing over their power and our consent. And if that's also happening at like the spiritual and metaphysical level too, that once people wake up, we can basically manifest our own paradise or heaven on earth, and the game's up for these people, then no wonder they're so desperate to keep us from knowing what we're in and who we are and what we're doing. So it's cool. It's cool when you get to that point.
So that being said, do you believe in magic in the reality that we live in?
I mean, I use the word magic just to convey whatever you want to call it. I mean, if we're able to influence our reality, which they're kind of admitting already, right? With the quantum stuff, they're basically implying that when we observe shit, it changes. They're kind of softly admitting that there's some of that, but it could be that we're in this reality, whether it's constructed or a matrix or something, and are we here to wrestle out our inner demons and learn shit? Are we here to it could be that we're here because we're trying to learn or do something while we're here, and maybe all these oppositional forces and struggles are sort of part of that thing. I don't know. There's a lot of avenues of thought, right? Like, and anyone who believes in flat earth stuff, they're going to have their own opinions on all this. Some might be very Christian, some might be, something else. People are going to come to their own conclusions, but it's interesting that this kind of revelation kind of forces that door open and gets people asking all these questions, like, what's going on? Why am I here? And maybe for enough people that throws the blue pill away once and for all, where they at least become more heightened and aware of their own existence, and maybe that there's more meaning or purpose to it and things to figure out. And I think even just libertarians in general, we've known that from the political level, that the reason we're trying to change politics is because we know that when people are free and empower themselves, they can accomplish a lot more in their life. And when we're not enslaved to the system. And I think what made this flat earth thing resonate with me, and then now for me to come talk about it and be more open about it, is it really aligns thematically with the same ideas, to the point where, and I'll admit, like, let's say something happens where I'm
making a really good case for that. That's for sure.
Thank you. Let's say I'm swayed back. Let's say there's some irrefutable proof that, okay, somehow the earth was round and somehow it did make sense and we did go to space. There's so much true about what the flat earth stuff is really saying that I feel like it's kind of part of what makes me go towards it rather than the other thing, because it ties into those same ideas. And like I said, it's not as dumb and backwards as it sounds. I poke fun and I laugh too, because I know how it feels to be, just like when we're trying to tell people about our libertarian ideas or whatever, they'll laugh at us and we'll joke back and be like, oh yeah, no, I'm here to take your roads and let the warlords take over, whatever.
There'll be jetpacks. So
yeah, your 3-year-old's gonna have a pocket nuke, and we're gonna we'll make fun of the warped version of what they think we really want with our libertarian stuff. Some of it's real, but some of it's exaggerated. And same with this. It's like, it is funny on the surface, but then you look into it and it's some serious ideas. So I've always thought libertarians are ripe for this stuff, for the conspiracy stuff, but really for the truth. The truth is what matters, because conspiracies can be wrong too. There can be stuff that turns out to not be wrong. It can be a psyop. So I'm always also open to that. I'm like, it's possible I've been fooled. It's possible others can be fooled by this stuff. But I think the more people actually look into it, they'll be shocked how much it has some weight, At least more than they assume. What's that?
Do you do psychedelics?
Not yet, but
okay,
one of these days.
Because that's definitely something that pushed me down, at least the thought experiment of like the simulation theory. And I was hanging out with weird people that were willing to have that debate with me randomly. Even whether they were playing devil's advocate or not, I still sometimes can't tell with some of my friends, including you right now. I don't know if I'll ever be able to tell if you like actually believe this, or if this is just a really long con and a publicity stunt for your books. I can't tell, but either way, I respect it.
Thank you. I mean, I hope you can tell, but I am sincere in this. But I also agree that
I can like an hour ago.
Now that I've said it, has to be true.
Now I can,
no, it's sincere. I treat it like a joke because it is funny and it's true. Obviously, it's a curious, strange thing that gets attention and does, I would hope, help me sell books and things. But also, I'm serious about it. And if I think I'm wrong and I swing back to Globe, I'll be the first to tell people. I'll be like, listen, we're gonna laugh about this later. Here's what I think now, right? I mean, but I realize I'd rather tell people what I think now while I believe it and while it makes sense to me, and a growing number of people, 7% of the population, that this is what I think, so that, okay, fine, if something changed or there's new revelations, then I can be open about that too, that change. So I've come out of the flat closet to tell people, look, there may be more to this universe than we thought, and that it ties in weirdly nicely with our libertarian ideas. It's just it's just bigger. The same way that we try to tell people, we try to red pill them on just the basics, like, hey, maybe don't believe everything CNN's telling you or whatever. Like, hey, here's these small little red pills to take to try and get you further along. This is just the big kahuna.
Something that's always amazed me as I continue to get to know more and more people within the Libertarian Party is how many people are still really blue-pilled. Like, on a lot of things. Like, I made a joke about job to one of my former colleagues, and he was like actually upset with me because like he doesn't believe, like, and then we had a very short discussion where he ended up like he believes the entirety of the narrative. He just like the narrative, like he just believes it, like nothing about it was anything. And this person is like many years in the Libertarian Party.
That's what shocked me too, I think. And full confession too, to extend some empathy, I was pretty blue pilled on some stuff early on too. Like, I joined the party in 2016. I wasn't, I was, I went through a lot of the same stages of like, you get increasingly libertarian and more radicalized kind of as you go. Mm-hmm. And there's some stuff I'm sure looking back, it's like, yeah, but I think what pushed me further along, I was already kind of going there, but the COVID stuff, everything else, it red pilled me on even more and made me go, wow, yeah, a lot of this stuff isn't just hypothetical what ifs. This is like happening real time. And so I will extend some empathy for those who are still, and I have a theory about that, by the way. I think a lot of libertarians were people who are red pilled enough to know that something's wrong and that we want to change it. But we also want to believe that we have the power to change it, because I think for some libertarians, I suspect that if they believed half the conspiracies out there or the bigger scale stuff going on, it would make them feel powerless, or like their politics would suddenly seem sort of small or irrelevant. I think they're afraid of, exactly, yes, and so they'd rather maintain.
Hashtag why I resigned from the LP last week.
Wow, I didn't even realize that's connected, right? Yeah. So I think they're afraid that if the big bad is too big and bad, so they'd rather tell themselves it's not as bad as it is. Mm-hmm. And I can empathize with that too. There's some stuff I didn't want to look at or see. Like I said with the flat earth stuff, I was like, I can't go there yet. What I will tell them is that, at least what I found, is that actually finding out how big and bad this stuff is should hopefully empower us to fight harder. And whether or not that means we can succeed politically, I think, because it is bigger than politics. It's always been bigger. It's always been a philosophical conversation too. It's always about more than just politics. If anything, it's kind of an anti-political solution. It's trying to free people from the political solutions and governments and stuff. Mm-hmm. And I think it's always been bigger than that. But I think I try to remind those of us still in the political fight, like, whether or not we win doesn't make it hopeless. And yet I understand why some may need to dip out or fight battles elsewhere, because it's not just it's mm-hmm. conversations like this. It's stuff about conspiracies or spiritual stuff or whatever else is going on. Like, it's a lot of important awakening conversations to have with people. One of them just happens to be politics, and imagine, here's my hope for libertarians. Okay. Because we all argue about what's the right messaging, what's the right way to grow. There's all these feuds and things going on, but maybe as people awaken to this bigger stuff, who knows? Maybe libertarians can be the ones who welcome in those people rather than make fun of them and call them crazy or call them right wingers or whatever. Like, that's like, if we can get to the point where we're like, hey, flat earthers, come on in. We're with you, at least on like, yeah, this government's probably lying about all kinds of shit, right? Let's find out what else they're lying about. Maybe we'll get that 7% grafted in, right? Or whatever.
Yeah. If we can target that 7% correctly, we could get a couple of congressmen.
Yeah. And I will say this, I won't name names, but there are some who, now that I've openly the last few months started to talk about this, have in private told me, not many, but some, have told me, hey, I've been looking at this stuff too. It's making me think, or I'm wondering about it. And someone has said, but I know I can't say anything publicly because I'm either running for office or there's stuff going on where it would just sink their credibility. There's no time to explain to everyone, no, I'm not crazy. So at least someone like me, I've got less to lose, man. I'm just a writer. I'm trying to sell books. I can say the crazy shit, and there's maybe I can help be a voice to let people know, hey, you're not crazy for thinking some of the shit might be real, and just conspiracy people in general, right? Like that would seem like a natural fit that people who don't trust the government and believe in conspiracies would come to the Libertarian Party and vote Libertarian. So I want us to have open arms towards them instead of kind of buy into the main narratives that are so dismissive of that and are like, oh, the government can never do this. It's like, we should know better. We see what they do. Doesn't mean all of them are true, but we should at least be friendly towards the conspiracy minded,
And I will say that the liberty movement and like any movement requires people like yourself. Like I'm a big proponent of like the cyclical nature of the universe, and like, that we can look back on like very similar things throughout, and like any major revolution or like uprising or like real freedom of thought movement was led by a mixture of artists, businessmen, and politicians together. Like it took all three of those groups coming together every time, whether we're talking the American Revolution, the French Revolution, the overthrow of Rome and Greece, there's so many different pieces of that. But like any time that this has happened, it's required people who were legitimate and principled and blah, 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 blah. And then there were the people who were out there and didn't give a fuck, like yourself. And then also people to finance it all because they were profiting off of something.
Yeah, I'm glad you see that too. It's like it's why our movement and what we're doing, it's bigger than just our party. There's other voices. We have to affect the culture. There's a lot more going on. And for me, again, I wrote my books long before looking at flat earth stuff. What a general theme I found, by the way, the stuff I write about, and I'm not claiming to be a prophet here, but I although keeping the cult joke going is pretty fun. But no, I sometimes write about stuff in my fantasy novels and things that at the time, I'm just pulling from subconscious, deep symbolism stuff, right? And sometimes I'll look back later and reappreciate maybe something that was in there. But it's especially weird when more things keep coming out to be true that are similar enough that you're like, oh yeah, maybe the things we think are fantasy or are sci-fi or seem like fiction are not as fictitious as we think. That other versions of it or things like it have been happening and do happen, and maybe I can tell people lately, like, you libertarians, you best start believing in dystopian fantasy novels because we're in one. There's a lot more going on than we think, and
hell yeah.
It doesn't mean that we'll get all the answers from that, but
so do you have a theory for for the where do we go when we die question?
It's a great question. I have a lot of hopes and ideas. I've at times been a Christian. I've at times been agnostic on that stuff. I've been I ask these questions a lot, and there's a lot to dig into. I think my fundamental sense of the world is this trust that things get better in the end, and there is some kind of life beyond. And I've had that fundamental rock to hold on to, that whatever is going on now, the fucked up shit, all the weird stuff, it's temporary and it will end. Or put another way, we will each be able to escape it at some point. And whether that's after death or during this life or whatever, there's a lot of details to figure out. And I have thoughts on all these things, and I can share them. But I like to think that maybe, like you said, the simulation stuff, a lot of this one day will feel like a bad dream or a nightmare. And one where it was important that we believed it was real while it was happening to learn what we needed to learn. And when things are better and fine, that is a deep question people ask. Like, people, again, if this flat earth is showing like scientifically, like, no, we're in a created thing, there's something that made this. The questions are, who is this? What is this intelligence? What made all this? And what do they want? And I think this fundamental trust that intelligence is good and wants good things for us, and that everything broken and fucked up will get fixed, whether that's through us or by us, like being connected to this intelligence, or whether they're going to show up and come knocking, or I don't know what. But I think the only way you could allow evil or disharmony or these things that are not so great is if they're kind of an illusion, or they're temporary, like they won't last. And so whether you call that universal reconciliation, right, the idea that everyone's going to be resurrected and reconciled in paradise at some point, that basically that if there is a hell, it's not forever, that we're all just going through these maybe we're in hell right now, maybe this is the hell we're in to learn shit until we're ready to leave and get back to paradise. I mean, we don't know, like, who knows? This is purgatory or something, right? We don't know. But I trust that
I went through a phase. I went through a phase where I like legitimately somewhat believed in Greek mythology.
Dude, you want to talk about that, dude? All right. Here's what's fun too about opening this flat door. All right. Okay. We kick the flat door in, and then you look at stuff like evolution. So if the same people that lied about heliocentrism and the globe were also pushing evolution and all that shit deep time, because if that's out the window, then you're like, oh my god, okay. If we have human beings who kept describing shit they were encountering, they wrote it the fuck down. They like carved it into shit because they were like, you need to know what happened. And they're all describing like a major catastrophe or flood events or things that keep happening over certain periods, like maybe 5,000 years ago ish. And then you have them describing these like, beings from outside, or these like half like demigod characters running around, like the Greek gods or the Titans or whatever. And then this idea that there was some event that destroyed or stopped them. And then, you have these descriptions of giants and giant people walking around. And you got descriptions of these big lizard reptile things, aka dragons, roaming around. And you're digging up things like dinosaurs. And you're like, if some of this shit was around more recently than we thought, right? Like when we find a fossil, is that bajillion million years old? Or is that something that was slowly made a fossil? Or was it rapidly killed off and rapidly buried and fossilized? Because we find other examples of shit that gets fossilized very rapidly. Are our ancestors' descriptions of shit that was going on actually as crazy as it sounds? If they were seeing shit that was like, dude, there's these monsters in the sea, there's these fucking giant lizards running around, like there's this guy coming out of the sky and they're throwing lightning bolts at each other. Like, I mean, for all we know, they were describing real shit to us just in their own way that they could understand, and it got passed down. So, who knows? I mean, it's all on the table now, right? Once you kick open the flat door, it's like, what the fuck else is going on this realm?
Yeah.
Who are these people and beings?
One of my personal favorite, like, to get really stoned and debate a devil's advocate kind of thing that I don't know if I fully believe, but I believe enough to debate it. And I kind of have thought through it enough that basically like Jesus was a misunderstood Buddha. And
yeah, some interesting theories. Yeah.
Cause there's enough to line up there, and it's really fun, especially to like argue with Christians about, like, I really want to have Jacob Winograd on and debate that exact thing, and just try to get him to understand that he's actually a Buddhist and not a Christian. But yeah, I'm a firm believer in the fact that, like you said earlier, like we do have the ability to maybe not control, but influence the reality around us and what's going on. Definitely. I was raised a Christian, and I believe in the power of prayer. I've seen it work. I've like seen that. I've also seen evidence of some other religions being legitimate. And basically I saw irrefutable evidence of too many contradictory things, and I was like, okay, they all must be bullshit.
Right. How much do you throw out? How much do you keep from each version of what's yeah, I like to, because it's either all of our philosophies and religions are touching on enough truth that they're onto something and they're trying to tell you something, and then you're figuring out which pieces are just the man-made bullshit part, or what's going on there. And is there one of them that is the truth and the others are echoes of it, or are all of them echoes of something that is the truth? And yeah, I mean, that's what we're all asking, trying to figure out. So I'm with you. There's days I'm closer to one understanding than another. But I will say this, I think that what our ancestors and people were trying to tell us or pass on, that there was more truth to it than not in general. If you break it down, the fundamental ideas, especially just that that we are here, we're created, there is a purpose, there's things, there's right and wrong, and there's things to be learned, and there's stuff going on that's bigger than just the molecules slamming around into each other. That fundamentally is true, and people find it various ways and they describe it various ways, but I think there's something, right? I mean, especially if there's flat and it's this constructed thing, we're in something, whether it's someone's footstool and they're just
have you seen have you seen The Good Place?
No, but I think I know a lot of the premise, and I've heard some great things from it. Yeah.
You should definitely watch it. I think not only will the theology played out kind of I think The Good Place, in my mind, does a lot of what we were talking about on the show last time about kind of taking an entertaining fictional thing and putting it in a way that helps you actually visualize and conceptualize something that before was very difficult to do so. The way that your books do with Liberty, I think The Good Place does it sort of believe philosophically, and so in the beginning, she asked the question of who got it right, and he's like, yeah, everybody got it 5 or 10% right. He's like, the Christians were right about a couple of things, and the Hindus got a lot of it, and he's like, and then there was Doug Forsett, and she's like, well, who's Doug Forsett? And he's like, so Doug was a stoner kid from Calgary who went on a mushroom trip, and his friend asked him, what do you think happens when you die? And he went on a monologue, and he got 92% correct. This is within the first 5 minutes of the pilot episode.
That's awesome.
And so it's just kind of this conglomeration of everything, everyone's kind of wrong but everyone's kind of right thing, that actually ends up making everyone go to hell, basically, because the world has gone to shit, that all of us do so many bad things in a day by just it's so negative that nothing good that you could possibly do could outweigh the amount of negative you do by
we're all broken and sinful. Yeah. There's a reckoning one way or another. And it's similar themes with karma and other stuff. There's a sense that and one thing I do like about some of the Christian themes and what some of it seems to be saying, especially my digging into it, I think people's aversion to some of the, call it what you will, churchianity or the religiosity or the strict literalness of some of the things. I think I understand where that revulsion comes from, because I think we do see ways in which religion can go very wrong. But I will say, in those deeper themes or ideas in there, just like in many other things, there's some really compelling, a lot of people don't know how much a lot of the older original Christian thinkers and people, they were describing a very different version of Christianity than is often currently taught. They were describing universal reconciliation. They didn't believe everyone was going to be burning in hell forever. That's a concept interpretation from later. There's also a lot of like, goddess symbolism and things in there too. There's a lot more, I think, to the things we have right now than we know. And I think the times when people feel like something's right about it, it's because they're tapping into that truth. There's something in there that was good and pure and right. And then when people are rejecting certain religions, it's because they're sensing or seeing things about some of it that maybe was inserted or man-made or twisted a bit, and I think, it even says in there, it's like a lot of us are operating on, only we know in our heads and hearts what we think is right and wrong and real. And it's on that we're really, I think, being judged, maybe judging ourselves. And that, I think I like the themes and symbols, especially of if you're having a savior figure, that this is someone who is a healer, that people are not, it's not a crime and punishment situation. It's not that people are evil and need to be punished forever. It's people are sick, they're unwell, they're broken. And the process of fixing and healing people can be painful and feel like hell, but that the purpose of all discipline or punishment or correction is to heal the broken soul or body. That we're all, there's in this domino effect or ricochet from some event or some choice that was made. We all feel it and we're all affected by it. And call it maybe disharmony. If the world is vibrations and sound wave, maybe there's just a disharmonious echo ricocheting everywhere. And we're in the process of it being corrected back to a harmonious existence. And so, we're all part of that process every day and every little decision we make. And it can be kind of empowering that we're here to get healed and heal others. And, that to trust that everyone's going to be okay in the end. It's just how many hard, painful lessons do we all want to go through before we let go of all our old bullshit, or whatever it is we're still clinging on to. So you see those themes in the karma stuff. You see those themes in Christianity. I mean, it's you're seeing it in a lot of places, and it seems to be kind of true. And even in atheist globe universe world, those themes could still be true about human nature regardless, right? I mean, those are kind of true. It's just this adds a layer of, right, but there's also some cool cosmic shit going on, and there is more to life beyond. And I think people are going to have a chance to live life as it should have been instead of what we have now. And whether it's a resurrection or reincarnation, I don't know. But it seems like, I love that thought though. Like one day we get up, like let's say we are resurrected and we're just in these like indestructible bodies, and there's like this infinite plane of just stuff to explore and do, and we're finally all just like, oh, we can just have fun now. We can just like play music and make food and drink and have sex and run around and build shit and do whatever we want without the fear of, oh, hey, someone might murder you today, or you might get robbed today by your government or something. It's like, it'd be cool to think that we could experience life in that utopian version and compare and contrast what we had and go, yeah, this is better. This is great. I'm glad that other thing's over now. That was just a little, experiment to see how fucked up shit could get if we're not all, harmonized or whatever.
Yeah. I've stopped believing in the possibility of a utopia personally.
Yeah.
I am of the opinion that utopia is half of it, right? Like, it's the like yin and yang concept of like, you need the bad to make the good good, and you need the good to make the bad bad, and you need that balance, and that you find utopia at various points throughout your life mixed in with the shitty and the medium and everything else. I think that we can do better than where we're at. I think that like there's also kind of like an there's a ebb and flow for each person, and also one for society in general, and that we've been kind of flowing towards shit for a little while now. I think we can all agree to that. And the pendulum will swing back, I believe, as technology gets better, we'll automate things, make life better for a lot of people, and we'll go through a time of slight prosperity. We'll hit the roaring 20s, but maybe about a decade too late, and do the whole thing over again, like we have many times. That's kind of my personal opinion, and I'm just like trying to push us towards that like I want to live my golden years out during the pendulum swing back towards like good. Like that's kind of where I'm at. Like that's what I want, at least like for my kids to grow up during that. Like that's kind of my goal.
And thank you, because I also agree that there's some people, when they get super spiritual stuff, they can kind of get almost, I want to say, too disconnected from this life, this world. And I feel like it's not that we have to wait around till death to have what we want in life. I think not all of us will have what we want in life, but there's nothing wrong with you fighting to live and be free and represent the way life should and could have been, or supposed to be, while we're here. Because even if it's futile, even if we're in this weird hell matrix or something for a bit, I think there's something beautiful about shining your light and trying, and just being a beacon of like the best you can try and do and be. And maybe I have to think that's why we're here, right? It's to shine a bunch of torches in the darkness and wave them around and say, hey, don't worry, sun's coming back around, the light's coming back. It's dark right now, it's really scary, but don't worry. And maybe maybe it's an endless cycle. Maybe we go through this and do this for fun. I don't know. But that the fact that we keep burning torches and going, hey, this is how to live, this is how to be free, is I think a good thing. I think it's what we're supposed to be doing here. And not to be discouraged by the fact that it can feel hopeless sometimes, but just that we're here to be that symbol, right?
Yeah, I love that imagery of the torch. It's almost like someone should use it for like a book cover or something.
We should build a statue with it, or
or maybe some logo branding or something.
That's a great idea. Yeah, maybe red and black. It's cool, man.
Red and black.
Oh shit, you're right. I think this is why people have other avenues to those deeper questions and conversations. Flat Earth is just one of them, but it is cool to think that the flat Earth stuff is shown and exposed. Like, it really does bring that conversation to the forefront. It's suddenly like, imagine if everyone here, like, irrefutably could look around and be like, okay, clearly there's more to this. And then if everyone maybe would figure out what that is and tap into that source or whatever that stuff is, and maybe people would feel less lost and feel like they could go find those answers, because they at least want to believe whatever bullshit's being pushed by the current powers that be.
Mm-hmm.
And I like to think, I feel like, would this government not like basically collapse under the weight of, if people expose NASA and everything as just this great sham? And I don't know, or would people just kick off religious wars? I don't know. I don't know what would happen. Would we all just fight over who God is, or would we all be like, well, fuck the government?
I feel like at this point, there's enough people that would just shrug this off.
Yeah. You're right. Maybe like, maybe that's why they let things get so weird. They're just mentally prepping us to embrace flat Earth. Once it's exposed, everyone's just
remember murder hornets?
Yeah, exactly. We've been through murder hornets, COVID. Yeah. And then finally, we're like, the Earth's flat. We're like, whatever, man. Yep. Cool. Let's go outside the ice ring. What's out there? Let's see.
Yeah. I feel like it would be exciting. Like, people would be like, well, thank God you finally told us.
Yeah.
Like, let's go explore.
It would be cool, right? It's like a new frontier. It's like, oh my God, well, let's go. Let's do something.
The final frontier.
Yeah. The real one. Yeah.
Not real space.
Not the green screen one. Yeah.
I would feel so bad for Jess Mears, though. Like, this would crush her.
Oh, I know.
Wasn't real.
I know. Who's going to tell Elon? I mean,
Okay,
He
I know
must know.
We were talking about like lied to or lying.
Right.
Elon, whose side do you think he's
See,
on?
it breaks my heart because he's been saying some cool shit lately that a lot of libertarians like, but I'm worried that he's one of them. He knows he's putting up the deception, or he doesn't know, and he's either slowly starting to figure it out, or they're duping him. Like he did. Like maybe he really still thinks he's going to Mars, and they're all just like, haha.
Do you
He
think
filmed that in
maybe
Canada.
he
He thinks it's on Mars.
knows and wants to tell the truth, can't, and that's why he's been so based lately, is because he's relying on people like you. He's like, maybe if I can make people be more liberty minded, they'll find some weirdo libertarians that are also flat earthers, and they'll find out the truth.
Elon, I'm your man.
The Elon to Jack Casey pipeline exists. Maybe
he's the Boring Company is actually to drill through the dome. Like he knows what's up, and he's quietly trying to funnel money to figure out what's going on while playing the charade so that the powers that be pat him on the back and go, yes, keep up the good work. But maybe secretly he's on our side. Hence why he says shit on TV like, you can tell it's real because it looks so fake. Or take the red pill, or other things. Yeah, is he trying to clue us in? I don't know. Or is he just, controlled op or whatever? I don't know. I want to believe he's on our team.
Alex Jones is a psyop.
Well, I was gonna say Alex Jones is against flat Earth, so whether that means he's in on it, or if he's just invested in his own versions, I don't know, but he's not for it.
I don't trust him.
Yeah.
I fully believe that Alex Jones is a federal agent.
Yeah, I could see it. I think that's how they help control the information, by infiltrating. And we saw stuff with QAnon and the rest and what's interesting is they will sometimes tell the truth to gain the trust of people and then sidetrack them. So yeah, flat Earth's interesting. When you look into how much flat Earth is being suppressed, and it's funny, once you start thinking about it that way, you go watch these clips of like Hillary Clinton and all these people, all these important people, talk show hosts, and the way they suddenly start bringing up and making fun of and addressing flat Earth in a very awkward, kind of forced way, it does send more red flags of like, why are they so worried about this? Why are they trying to bring it up and make fun of it so much? Why would it matter to them?
You mean like
if it was so stupid,
Yeah. Kind of like when Trevor Noah asked Hillary Clinton how she killed Jeffrey Epstein.
Oh, yeah.
Did you watch that clip?
Yeah. Okay. Something like that, right? Where like address the controversy or conspiracy and then immediately try to make fun of it and dismiss it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
In the most cringe, awkward, painful way possible.
Yeah. And it's all forced. They're all fake laughing, like, ha, 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 ha. I saw a clip too where, by the way, for anyone looking, Flat Earth Society is fake as fuck. That is controlled op if I've ever seen it. I think that's why Obama and other people will keep saying things like, the Flat Earth Society, blah, blah, because they're trying to direct you to that. And if you look at the Flat Earth, like no true Flat Earther agrees with what the Flat Earth Society is saying. Like they put some absurd shit on there to try and make it look dumber. And so it's funny that you're like, yeah, why would these politicians bring up Flat Earth and then specifically mention a site that all the real Flat Earthers know is bullshit and don't follow, And it's like, oh, okay, because they're trying to misdirect and show you, so that you see it, go, this is dumb, and dismiss it right off the bat. Whereas the real Flat Earthers putting out the real shit are being shadow banned and restricted. I'll drop some names for people who are curious to look into it. A documentary that is an hour long. It's a good kind of intro to some of the big names and what they've been trying to say. Is just called Level. It came out last year. You can find it on Odysee. You can find it on YouTube, but not by searching. You have to go to people's like specific channels to find it. But it's just called Level. It's like an hour long. It's kind of a good intro. Some of those names on there have way more detailed, interesting videos you can then find with those names. Honestly, one of the best people I've seen talk about Flat Earth stuff is David Weiss, also known as Flat Earth Dave. There's a bunch of other good ones too. Eric Dubé kind of got the ball rolling a few years back. He was really like the first one getting it, most searched, and then they tried to shut his stuff down. So there's been several voices, several people who each have their specific thing they're good at. David Weiss is a really good one. He's the next documentary of theirs called The Next Level is coming out in April, which will have David Weiss on there. So if you want more of the sciencey math stuff to kind of show stuff, David Weiss is one of the best I've seen explaining all this shit. It makes a lot of sense the more you look into it. But I'll try to be as open-minded to being wrong about this as I was to being wrong about the globe when I grew up believing what everyone else, was raised to think how stuff works. So
that's fair.
I'm not ruling out that it could be wrong, but it's looking more and more like this is what's up, and they don't want us to know, and they are freaking the fuck out that it's becoming more popular. They're like, shit. So
you know what? I'm gonna say I don't know if I believe you, but I'm gonna say at this point that I hope that you're right.
Cool, yeah. I'll take it. You want to believe, right? Yeah. I know. And for a while I didn't want to believe. I was like, all fuck no.
Fake. I want what we consider reality to be reality to be as far from reality as possible. Like I just want it to be as ridiculous. It's
interesting, right?
Yeah.
At least it wouldn't be boring. Yeah. We'd be like, holy shit. Yeah. This is fucking dope. NASA's fake as fuck. Look. No, trust me. You look at some NASA stuff now, though. You don't even have to look at what the flat Earth people are showing you with sunsets and other stuff. You just watch official NASA videos, and some of it, if you really look at and start conceiving that if this were fake, what would it look like? And you start watching the stuff they put out and claim as like live feeds, and you're like, oh my god, this is fake as fuck. Mm-hmm. This is so fake. At a minimum, they're faking this footage to PR or whatever, but some of it is just bad. And then the bloopers and stuff, you're like, yeah, they're clearly faking something. And if that's all we get is shut down NASA and expose their bullshit, that'd be great. I love it. That's a libertarian cause. We know they're ripping us off and lying about the fucking war on terror and the war on COVID and the other bullshit going on. So fuck it. This is the space was an inside job. That's what this is. Space is fake.
So I was not prepared necessarily for debate, but I definitely wasn't prepared for you to make flat Earth theory align with all of my both political and philosophical beliefs. Like to a fucking T. Like there's been very little outside of flat Earth that you've said in the last hour and a half that I disagree with. Like I'm with you on like all of the tangents that we went on. I was not expecting you to have such a similar like philosophical viewpoint as I have.
Yeah, man. I think we agree on a lot. And
especially because you said you don't do psychedelics. Like everyone that I know that's like that I've had a similar kind of conversation with has done lots and lots and lots of acid.
It's because they saw some shit and they're like, dude. Well, I often wonder if, again, because I have got the writer fantasy novel mindset, maybe I just have
Reno.
That's my plan. One way or another, by plane or train or something.
In Reno.
That would be amazing. Probably not during the convention, but maybe. I don't know. That might be interesting.
Last night of.
Well, I think that's what I want to help give people in our movement by talking about this right now. Is that yes, we make the jokes, we laugh. There's the dumb, funny version of what flat Earth could be, and we all like to make fun of it. But when you really look into it, there's a lot deeper shit going on, and there's a lot of cool stuff there. And to at least gain some sympathy for why it's not as crazy as it sounds, and it's not as dumb as it sounds, even though it does sound dumb at first. But then you look at NASA footage, and you're like, maybe this shit's really dumb, man. Maybe it's their whole thing that's been, so look into it. There's some of those names I mentioned earlier. The documentary Level is a nice hour-long kind of preview. They kind of break down a lot of stuff to get you started. But keep looking. It takes most people 6 months or more to finally take, because every follow-up question, I mean, I'll warn you, people will probably be watching shit for weeks and losing sleep once they start getting it. Like the more you start to think it might be true, you're like, fuck, and you just keep watching more shit, and you're like, wait, what about this though? How does this make sense? And then you just keep going. And you may not find all the answers, but you might find enough that breaks the globe, and you're like, dude, this shit's flat as fuck, man. I don't know about how all the rest works, but fuck, man. Shit's flat as fuck.
I will go down that rabbit hole, and people watching, I will report back at the end of that rabbit hole, and we'll see how this turns out.
I'll drop some
Jack,
links.
You're a wonderful person and a great guest. Thank you so much for doing this.
You as well. Thank you. I'm heartened that we have so much to agree on, despite any other minor disagreements we may have about stuff. I would love to keep just connecting to everyone I can in this movement, and yeah, man. Maybe we thought we were here to bring the gold pill to the normies. Maybe we're here to bring them the flat pill instead. Maybe that's the even bigger.
Like a fucking wafer cracker, like a wafer.
Just there you go.
All right. Well, before we wrap up, tell people where they can find your books. The site's scrolling across the bottom, but pitch your books and tell them why they should read them or why they shouldn't.
Yeah. Reverse psychology. Don't read these, whatever you do. Just like don't look into flat earth, whatever you do. The Royal Green, so jackcaseybooks.com. The Royal Green series I wrote as a young adult growing up, exploring themes of liberty and other cool stuff. Very organic, very fun, sci-fi fantasy stuff. If you see any sci-fi concepts like space and spaceships in there, that just may reinforce that it's a fantasy novel. I don't know, instead of sci-fi. And so that is its own trilogy, fun adventure. It could become a bigger series if you guys like it and want to see more. WVW is my short 100-page pilot episode for what could be a series. It is a politically incorrect, offensive political satire making fun of everybody. The premise is that werewolves, vampires, and witches have taken over society, and we all just think that's normal and okay, and they've been running shit. And it's very conspiratorial. I think you may see some fun stuff worked in there, such as flat earth and things. Because as the world gets weirder, I want to write weirder stuff and make fun of it all with you. So yeah, whether you check out WVW and get your panties in a wad, or the Royal Green series, which is maybe more you can see for yourself. See for yourself. Tell me what you think. I appreciate you having me on, man. This is cool.
Thank you so much. Everybody, thank you for watching. Like I said, the first rule of Fight Club is tell everybody about it. So go to jackcaseybooks.com, order all 4 books, then read all 4 books, lock yourself in the bathroom and do so, right?
That's right.
And then give them to your friends, and then send them this and be like, that person is this person either. And Jack, again, thanks so much for it. This was great.
You too, man. This is fun.
All right, guys, we'll catch you back here next week. We have 2 awesome guests with Eric Rodstep and Josh Eagle on Tuesday and Wednesday on Fight for Liberty. We'll catch you back here then. Until then, keep up the fight.
Shut up and sit down.